Fuck you. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever the fuck you're watching this episode. It's another episode of the Blitz brought to you by Backyard Sports. I got Gary Freeze with me. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm good, man. Crazy weekend this past weekend. A lot of controversy, a lot of conversation to have. So
A lot of
looking forward to
crow.
it, bud.
I'm due some crow.
Yeah, I missed both
Fucking
games.
yeah, we're fucking loser party of two. This
Yes,
was a tough.
sir.
Um, we got a little arrogant.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we're definitely due. We're gonna jump right into it. NFC Championship, 49ers, Eagles. Eagles at home, Eagles dominant, and 49ers with their 37th string quarterback, the fucking walk on the street holding cardboard right outside the fucking practice facility is
He
getting
was
started.
spinning a subway sign before the game.
Yeah. And yeah, Purdy got hurt early, and I don't think it was particularly like an outstanding run performance from the Eagles with the exception of Jalen Hurts, but that's the way their offense is designed, and they get to rely on that elite level running that Jalen Hurts has, which, injury was of concern, and he's obviously not at 100%, but 121 yards rushing can't hurt you too bad.
Yeah, this was an interesting game, and I just want to just kind of put it out there, right? Butterfly effect is like a real thing in pro sports, but I think in the NFL more so maybe than any other sport. In some of the other sports, maybe soccer could kind of say that, in NASCAR a little bit, but I think of the major pro sports in North America, butterfly effect is so real in the NFL, and I want to put it to you this way. So on the first drive the Eagles had, they go for it on fourth down. Devontae Smith drops the ball, and now I got into a conversation with somebody who was like, it's hard to see, it's this, it's that, right? And I get I get the idea of it's a fast game and they're big guys and they're athletes, but the ball's on the ground and I can see it from my couch from an overhead view. The back judge who has that call is looking at the play, and I don't know what he's looking at, which is kind of just standard these days in the NFL. These refs, they just get lost in this kind of spectatorship. I don't know if that's what it was. But then, like, the person had the counterpoint to me, like, well, he's like 20 yards away. I'm like, listen, dude, like, 20 yards, if you can't see a ball on the ground with contrasting colors, the Eagles were wearing light colored pants and the ball was like against his legs on the green grass. If you can't see that from 20 yards away, you shouldn't be reffing in the NFL at all, right? So that's kind of like a moot argument for me. If you want to say speed of the game or whatever, that's fine, but you're just not doing your job, is what it is. So then I say all that to say butterfly effect. We go to the next drive. The Eagles end up scoring a touchdown after that. And San Fran then comes out and Purdy gets hurt on their second or third play from scrimmage. I have to believe, right, that like if you get the ball on their side of the field on a fourth down turnover, that game changes right off the bat. And maybe Purdy doesn't get hurt, right? And it's just kind of the way things played out. But that's the butterfly effect of poor officiating. And we saw it throughout this game. I'm just right. And that's one big thing is like the replay officials can go to the quick little conference review. It wouldn't have taken them that long to say, like, that's not a catch. Because, like I said, I'm sitting my fat ass on my couch, and I saw that in live time, not on the replay, in live time. And they couldn't figure out to do a quick fucking replay and get it right. And Devontae Smith's literally, I didn't catch the ball. When a guy says get to the line of scrimmage, the guy who supposedly caught the ball says get to the line, that tells me he didn't catch it. He's telling the world that he didn't catch the ball. So, and yeah, you're right, Dave. They were just bringing heat. And I don't know what Shanahan's doing, right, to get back to kind of the first drive for the Niners. You didn't block Brandon Graham once, and you didn't block Hassan Reddick on the play that Hassan Reddick hurt Brock Purdy. You have a backup tight end blocking him. It was bad decision making by Shanahan. But that to me, really, right off the bat, we saw some really piss poor execution by the officials in this game. And I'm literally having a conversation with an Eagles fan during the game, and he's got no rebuttal for anything that's going on with these officials throughout the game. And he's just like, yeah, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of like getting calls. We're going to win. I don't mind getting calls. And as I've told you as a Cowboys fan, like, you shouldn't complain about getting calls, right? Because you're getting them. You're getting them. And it went that 7 first downs as a result of a penalty for the Eagles. 0 for the Niners. 7-0 first downs off a penalty. It's a mess.
I mean, that's a number that speaks for itself, right?
He did have the play of the day. Oh, man.
Sorry, I'm trying to I was updating our banner here because I wanted to make sure I was throwing on. Wait, I need to change the spacing on that. That's annoying.
We'll get it fixed.
Anyways, I'll keep working on that. My bad. But I did say something earlier that I wanted to correct. I said 121 yards rushing. That was 121 yards passing. And then he still had 39 yards rushing. So, I mean, decent turnout for Jalen Hurts. He stayed clean, no interceptions. But, man, I don't know.
Didn't have to do much offensively, man. You had
Didn't have to do much.
Josh Johnson gets hurt. Christian McCaffrey literally took snaps at quarterback. Like, that was doomed from the start, and it just felt like at about halftime, you just kind of wanted them to call the game and say, okay.
Yeah, we needed to mercy roll these bad boys.
We're gonna call this one. Honestly, that's what it felt like at about halftime.
Yeah. See, and can't have that.
But we did get out, and we're going to talk a little bit about Trent Williams later in the show.
All right, on to the AFC. This one, we both right off the bat were like, look, we got to count Patty out this time. We got to count him out. We've got to just face that is what we both agreed that was probably going to be the decision maker. And it was still a factor. Let's not take away from that. It was still a factor in this game. But Irish Patty's going to fucking Irish Patty. And we saw some pretty critical mistakes happening with the Bengals that were, man, like I feel like this was a bluff and it just got exposed by an injured offense, it was easy work at times for that Chiefs defense. So
it felt like a weird game
the whole way through.
This was a combination of a couple of different things. Yeah, we're going to do our Super Bowl preview next week. That's going to be an interesting topic of conversation because that's the strength of the Eagles offense is also a strength of the Chiefs defense. So that'll be interesting to talk about. I don't want to spoil too much, but it's going to be a challenge for the Eagles against that Chiefs defense, especially the way Spags is really scheming it up. But this Bengals Chiefs game, you saw the mistakes from Burrow. You don't see him make the 2 throws that he made for picks very often, and he did it twice in this game. He seemed a little out of sorts in the first half. I even said during the first half, I had been talking Lou Anarumo up a lot the week before, and they were playing a weird kind of soft zone. I think they were just trying to challenge Mahomes to make decisions, take the underneath, or move around where he wasn't going to be at his best. And it seemed like the Chiefs were doing that enough. They weren't really running away. But then the Bengals get back in the game, and you just had these moments throughout this game that the officials were involved again, and it just felt like shit. But then, of course, you get the end of the game where every Chiefs fan can just be so vindicated by saying, well, he hit him way out of bounds, so the rest of the game doesn't fucking matter. Like, what are we doing on the 3rd and fucking 9 that we literally replayed a play? Like, this isn't backyard fucking football where we're like, listen, no, we're going to do a do-over. Like, that ain't a thing in professional sports. And then for all these, like, I had a Chiefs fan come to me and try to say, like, the audio-less replay was proof that he blew his whistle. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I went back and watched the play 4 fucking times. This is backyard sports. You're absolutely right, Dave. But I went back and watched the play 3 4. He didn't blow a fucking whistle. He may have been trying. He may have been running in to maybe try to kill the play, but he didn't blow his whistle. You can't replay that down. And then on the very next play, you throw a ticky-tack holding flag that gives him an automatic first down. If you've ever tipped your hand, NFL, you did it a little too much on that fucking sequence there. And it was like that, like the whole game, it was just these little things. Like the Chiefs got a favorable, like the Marquez Valdez-Scantling reaches the ball out, they call it short, but then on replay, they don't have a conclusive angle that they never overturn. Spot of the ball, if they don't have a clear down the line look, the camera is up the field on both angles that they had from the side, and then the pylon cam, there's somebody standing in the way. You do not have enough evidence to overturn it yet. They overturned it and gave the Chiefs first down. It's just like all these things just adding up throughout this game. It just kept piling on top of each other. And I've gotten the question since the game, like, is it scripted? Is it scripted? And we're going to talk about that later.
Yeah.
But I just, throughout the whole game, I just kept saying, well, the NFL is showing their hand. They're showing their hand. They're showing their hand again, showing their hand again, showing their hand again. And it was like a dozen times throughout this game and the Eagles game. It was insane to me. The game was fucking over between the Eagles and the Niners, and we still had officials calling just ridiculous fucking flags. Like, come on, guys.
It didn't, at no point in time did I feel like, really in either of these games, that we were getting conference championship worthy officiating, you know?
Yep.
When we talk about the big games, we also, I mean, there's a reason why we see the referees that we see in the octagon. There's a reason why we see the same folks, and it's because they're tried and true, right? And it's one of two things. It means that they don't have a complete team that they can invest in that's their ace team, right? Or
it might be their ace team.
Or they're, yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, so they don't actually have one. Or or they're poorly managing the way that they handle this. But like this act, I feel like if you want to do it the right way, then you get the best of the best. But if you do that, you're going to expose that there's now going to be some type of grading system on these refs, right? And that's something they won't have, as some type of accountability factor.
They keep claiming this whole, like, we score them throughout the season. We score them throughout the season.
Okay.
Only
Make
the best
it public.
teams get playoff games. Only the best teams get these games, and only the best teams are going to be, or the best crews are going to be in the conference championship games. And then for the Super Bowl, they take like the best at their position throughout the course of the season. I'm going to tell you right now, there's some really hard, fast evidence that the crew that officiated the NFC championship game is not the best crew, because that was the same crew that had the Washington game against the Giants, where Curtis Samuel got bear hugged in the end zone without a pass interference call on the decisive play of the game. And that crew's doing the NFC championship game. You can miss me with this assertion that you have a grading system and only the best get it, because you're not picking the best. We have had them get exposed by PFF and other places that these crews are bad throughout the season, yet they're still doing games in the postseason. And then these guys that get in the Super Bowl, Dave, who's watching, was pointing out the fact that Carl Cheffers is the crew chief for the Super Bowl. He's like one of the most flag happy crews in the game. Like, we don't want that for the Super Bowl. You're not going to tell me that a referee that just wants fucking FaceTime on TV is the right guy for the Super Bowl. You're not going to convince me of that. We're not doing this on the grading scale that they claim they're doing it on.
Listen, I won't continue to stand for all this backyard sports slander because in the connotation we're using it, it is negative. But we don't need no fucking backyard sports refs out there, dude. We don't.
100%,
Period.
man. 100%.
And if there is properly a grading system, then we expect to hold these referees significantly more accountable.
That's my day. I've said it for golly 15 years now, I think, probably. Like, we need full-time officials and we need full-on accountability. The NBA has their last 2-minute report. I think they do a pretty good job with that. We need accountability. There's too much money in it in terms of TV dollars. There's too much fan investment in it. Now gambling is a part of it. And you're not going to tell me that there aren't a lot of people pissed off right now, either in Vegas or who lost money to Vegas, watching those two games this weekend and getting the feeling like, man, we got fucking played, bro. We got fucking played by the NFL's agenda. Because that's what it felt like.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think, and ultimately, before we even get it, I feel like I was talking about it in the chat that we needed momentum for Joe, right? That was the only way he was going to need to get that momentum building, and then he was going to be the unstoppable force that we know him to be. And yet still, I mean, costly picks. We've got, I don't know.
It's crucial. There was, I think, 3, maybe 2 only, but they're crucial. First down holding flags are the ones that piss me off. Holding on first down against an offense, and you show me the replay, and even Tony Romo, who's fucking hammered out of his mind, says, I don't know about that one. Like, we're doing something wrong here. We're doing a disservice to the game, and it's just frustrating. You kill momentum, as you mentioned, momentum, and you put the offense behind the 8 ball, and it's the easiest way to do it. I don't want to spoil mailbag. I'm going to go in a little heavier in mailbag, I promise. If you're here for some official slander, stick around for mailbag, guys. I promise you. Let's talk some new coaches, bud.
Yeah, that's a good call. All right, so we're already seeing some, we're already seeing some interesting things. We'll get to the Kellen Moore thing, I guess, one of the more recent ones to the back. So let's jump right into Reich. What do you think is the most beneficial thing that he can bring?
I think he brings a Super Bowl mentality. I think he brings a winning mentality. I think he was dealt a bad hand in Indianapolis. They had a lot of success early in his tenure, even with some kind of washed up veteran quarterbacks. But yeah, he really was. It was so weird that he made those. Yeah, Mike, we're going to talk Hackett, but I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. But for me, that's what Frank Reich brings. And if they're going to try to keep Sam Darnold there and then maybe draft a quarterback to learn under him, I think Frank Reich's a guy that can do that. That's the biggest thing for me with the Panthers. They were winning a lot of games down the stretch. I thought Steve Wilkes had him playing pretty well. I thought he was going to have a chance to stay there as the full-time coach, but didn't seem like there were kind of mutual feelings that was going to happen. So I think this is a pretty solid hire for the Panthers because Reich brings that proven ability to mentor a young quarterback. Prior to his injury, he was doing a really good job with Carson Wentz. He did a pretty good job with Jalen Hurts for a bit. And then he went on to, be the head coach for the Colts. And he just never got a shot. I think that they were digging too hard at the ownership level. They were digging too hard at saying we've got a Super Bowl roster when they really didn't. They needed to build more kind of foundation for that team. and they never got over the hump because of that. That they just didn't seem to want to address the real issues with that team. So I think that this is a good opportunity for Reich with a young team who's clearly in kind of rebuild mode, with a division that now feels very gettable, especially if you consider Brady's probably not coming back to Tampa Bay. This feels like a division that Carolina could get, and they don't have to wait too long for the rebuild to start showing some playoff rewards.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's just more about what's going to happen with Russ. That's my question. What's your opinion about what does Russ's future look like now that we're talking about? I'm skipping over the board here, but I didn't
Sure.
I didn't want to wait on this one.
Sure.
Is Russ going to figure it out? Like, is this?
I think this is his best chance to recapture a bit in Denver. I think Sean Payton's a very savvy coach. I think he's very good at managing personalities. He dealt with quite a few big personalities in New Orleans. Breeze, for all of his kind of rah-rah in the public eye, he's a very big personality, a very kind of big ego. Michael Thomas was a big personality. They had some guys that really. Kamara can be a bit much. Mark Ingram, big personality. Cameron Jordan, big personality. Marcus Lattimore, huge personality. So they've got guys there that he's dealt with throughout his time. Michael Jenkins, another guy, or Malcolm Jenkins, another guy who's a big personality. So I think that's what Russ needs, is somebody who can come in and isn't trying to just pander to him, but also isn't going to hurt his feelings. And I think Pete Carroll, toward the end of his time in Seattle, might have hurt Russ's feelings a little bit. And then on the other side, Nathaniel Hackett last year, I think pandered to him too much, and it really hurt that locker room. It hurt that team, hurt the chemistry, hurt their ability to even put a product on the field. So I think that's the biggest thing for Sean Payton. And I do think that we'll see a better Russ next year. I don't know that it's going to be enough. I still don't think they have a lot of weapons on offense. I think this is a 2 to 3 year project for Sean Payton. And I don't know that that's going to be Russ at quarterback when that time comes. I think that they may be on to a new quarterback when Sean Payton really gets this thing pushed up the hill, up there, up the mile-high mountain, essentially.
So overall, a loss on for Russ. It's a loss for the Broncos for Russ as well.
I don't think they're going to see the returns on what they gave up to get him. I just don't. I think he's washed. I don't think Russ is. I don't know that Russ was ever that premier guy, to be honest. I think he was very much hidden early in his career by the run game and the defense. They can do that in Denver, but Russ don't want to do that anymore.
I think that we had the same conversation about Brady Belichick whenever they split up. Who was going to win that split, right? And we got to see an example where the player wins, right? And then we got to see one now where the coach wins.
Absolutely.
Because what's happening with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith right now is fucking magical. And look, Geno's not going to be some he's not going to be some prolific generational talent as a quarterback, but what he's doing with what he's got
won
is
9 games and got in the playoffs.
You know what I'm saying?
Like they won
listen,
9 games.
Hats off to the dude. He's competitive. He's a top 10 quarterback right now, and he's rightfully so a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now.
Geno had the best season of his career by a wide margin. So yeah, for sure. You're absolutely right. The coach won on this one.
Yeah. So, he ain't right back though.
Until halftime of the San Fran playoff game. Then he wrote back.
Fair. So, Coach Ryan's to the Texans. I fucking love this, dude.
I love and hate it. I'm going to tell you why I hate it. I hate it for two actual reasons. One, I hate it because I wanted DeMeco Ryans in Washington. I wanted Ron Rivera gone, and I wanted DeMeco Ryans. I kid you not. I've been saying it for about 6 fucking weeks that I wanted Ron Rivera gone, and I wanted DeMeco Ryans in Washington. I've got the receipts for that conversations with fellow Washington fans, with Mike Dieter right here. I actually told him, too, that I wanted DeMeco. I wanted DeMeco so bad, and I hate that he went to the Texans because I love the signing for them. I also hate it a little bit for him because they're a shit organization, but I love the signing for any team in the NFL. Getting DeMeco Ryans is an upgrade with few exceptions in terms of coaches that he's an upgrade over. But man, what a fit. Young team. He's going to be able to draft a quarterback. He's going to be able to mold that team. And they've already got a decent defense, and he's just going to make it better. I think the Texans are kind of right now, it feels like they might be fast tracked back into contention.
Some good stuff on the horizon, I think. So definitely a win there for the Texans. And Michael Dieter, excellent point.
Yeah.
Excellent point.
It's all about perspective.
I guess.
One Wilson for another Wilson's jockstrap.
Gross. Okay, so fucking Kellen Moore. You know, I wanted him, and then I don't know if it was the last show or the show before, you know, you had made a comment, or maybe someone did, maybe it was Brett, saying like, do we really want Kellen Moore? Do we need to keep him? Because there was one point in time where, at least from the organizational perspective, they're like, we're keeping him. We're going to fight for this guy. And, you know, maybe this season was, you know, a sign that there wasn't the best opportunity there. Look, Dak is who he is, right? And I think that Kellen Moore, I think his theoretical play calling was sufficient. If you have a Justin Herbert level quarterback, you know? So, you know, let's see what the wide receiver chemistry, and let's see how Justin Herbert does next season. But like, I think we're looking at something great. You know, but let's see what this looks like in comparison to Brandon Staley, who, aside from, you know, some, I don't know, I can't really defend the guy much, but damn.
I like that you were about to try, though.
You know, I was maybe just crediting the seasoning, if anything. You know, he's got a little bit more time in the game. So I don't know. Overall, what do you think Kellen Moore's future looks like with a quarterback as prolific as we know Justin Herbert to be, and to have the receiving core that he does have, right? For how much longer we'll have him, who knows?
Yeah.
But
I think you hit on some good points, man. I think in general, Kellen Moore is a pretty decent play caller. I think he's a pretty good play designer at times. I also think sometimes, I don't know if it was the Mike McCarthy influence or if it was a combination of kind of what they did at Boise and Mike McCarthy studying college football. They got a little too cute sometimes with some of their play calls and tries and designs. So, you know, balance that. But I think overall he's a fine play caller, a fine play designer. I think he can be a fine offensive coordinator. One concern of mine is that he goes from one organization that can't manage the clock to another organization that really can't manage the clock. Maybe it's a double negative, and suddenly they're the most efficient play clock management team in the league. I don't know. But I do think that he's got a lot of weapons in the cupboard there in LA, which is what he had in Dallas as well. But he's got a better quarterback to work with. And I think that Justin Herbert's going to be able to execute the Kellen Moore offense at a much higher level than Dak does. And as good a weapons as I believe the Cowboys have kind of on an overall look at it, I have my thoughts about CD, but he's still a playmaker when he does have the ball, like when he can keep the ball in his hands. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are legit. And they've got Gerald Everett, who came on. I don't know if they'll keep him, but they've got Eckler, who's one of the best dual-purpose backs in the league. So I think that they're going to be able to do a lot of things. And Kellen Moore is going to have plenty in the cupboard to work with. So I think it's a good fit. I don't know that it's a huge upgrade offensively for the Chargers themselves, but I think that the relationship will work nicely.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be net negative for the Chargers. And I don't necessarily think it's going to be net negative for the Cowboys. I think that we'll be in a position to be able to bring on some additional talent at the OC position, maybe a little bit more experience now that but we're past prime years already for Dak. That's where I'm at. You know, my only issue with the Cowboys is that. So Kellen's getting the up and up on the QB slot here.
Yeah, he really is upgrading at quarterback. And Dallas is still, they're a desirable destination. Jerry keeps them in the news, keeps them relevant. and they've still got some weapons there. But
Listen, we're past
yeah,
this.
yeah. Are we? I still see memes out there.
The memes are relentless and well deserved.
Yeah, they're fire.
Oh man, it's necessary. It's
Absolutely.
necessary. So now we get to talk about the JETS, Jets. I'll just let you run with this one.
Bijan's going to be a great running back in the NFL. He's going to be a phenomenal running back in the NFL. This is interesting to me because this feels a lot like
there's a chance, Aaron. Sorry.
Right. This feels a lot like what we saw last year and what everybody thought with Denver signing Nathaniel Hackett, that they were going to go trade for Aaron Rodgers because they had his guy and he was going to want to go there and yada yada yada. This feels a lot like that because I don't think that Nathaniel Hackett is really that qualified to be a coach, to be an offensive coordinator in the NFL. I think he was very much bootstrapped by Aaron Rodgers when he was in Green Bay and how much talent they had on offense with Devontae and crew. But this feels like a play like the Jets are calling right now, Brian Gutekunst, and trying to get a trade deal done for Aaron Rodgers. And if they can get that deal done, I immediately move the Jets up into the top 3 to 5 Super Bowl favorites next year.
Okay, so for the near double-digit viewers we have watching the show right now, if you guys want to comment, you're welcome. How confident are you percentage-wise that Aaron Rodgers will be a New York Jet next year? So
Me?
I'm asking everyone, and I'm asking you as well. How confident are you?
10%.
You know,
I'm just being real about it. And I shouldn't laugh because Mike's a big Jets fan. Mike Dieter is, and he's my cousin. So like I should not laugh. But like I just don't think, and he says 30%, maybe that's closer to real.
that's a 20% bias. It's not terrible.
I don't know that like I don't think Aaron wants to leave Green Bay. I think he just wants this off-season attention. He wants them to try to go get a wide receiver. I wouldn't be surprised if DeAndre Hopkins was traded from Arizona to Green Bay, something along those lines. I just don't know.
Hassett, talk that shit. For those of you guys listening, David Hassett says Gary's a Rodgers hater, but their Super Bowl team win with him.
I don't hate Rodgers' talent. I just like the guy, but they are a Super Bowl team with a legitimate quarterback, and I lump Aaron Rodgers into that legitimate quarterback. They have so much fucking talent offensively, young talent too, and that defense is the real deal. I immediately bump them up real high.
So you're kind of putting Aaron Rodgers in the same show that we had Andy putting Russ in the show in Denver. You know, saying like, look, that team is young, they're good, they're a quarterback away. And so you're saying the same thing about Aaron Rodgers. They're a quarterback away from being.
I had this conversation, right, with Dave and a couple other people in a maybe. But I had this conversation with Dave and a couple other people, and I had a very, very short list of teams that I felt could legitimately say that they're a quarterback away, right? And the Jets were really just at the top of my list. It was basically the Jets. I sort of lumped the Saints a little bit in there because I think they've got an opportunity, but the Jets were the team that I said, like, I can legitimately say that I believe that the Jets are a quarterback away. I was very much in disagreement with Andy about the Broncos, but you're absolutely right. It is kind of the same take, right? I'm pretty high on my conviction that the Jets are a quarterback away because of what else they have. They've got legitimate weapons across the board on offense, and they've got a defense that fucking stymies everybody.
I agree with all of that. What I don't agree with is that if Aaron Rodgers were like, I think that Aaron Rodgers.
You don't think Aaron's the guy?
He can't be the person. It's the personality that comes with the. You know what I mean? The personality, the playing style. He enjoys the level of command that he has in Green Bay. And he requires it. It's a part of his ego stroking. So him in any other organization to me seems fucking insane. And it'll be short-lived and it won't be successful.
Yeah. And so I don't believe he's going to the Jets, but I do believe if the Jets are able to get him.
I would go as far as to say that if you are correct and your 10% estimate were to be the one that wins here and he goes to the Jets, we're going to see a Russ in Denver-esque performance.
Wow, really?
I'm not kidding, dude.
Really?
I think that he's legitimately that much of a fucking problem.
Interesting. You think it's more about attitude with him?
Yeah.
Although Russ's attitude is shit too, but
yeah, but Russ at least tries to be, hey, let's go team.
Yeah. No, I think Dave's got a point here too, right? Like, I think Rodgers would fit in okay in New York City because they like that kind of arrogant attitude. And then Green Bay is just a winning city, so if you win, they love you. But I think Dave's kind of close here on it, this take that Rodgers kind of makes sense in the Big Apple because of just the way that he's an asshole. And what are people from New York known for? Being fucking assholes.
Fair enough. Okay. I don't
know.
I don't know enough about New York culture.
New York City is it's a tough go in New York City.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah, the Nathaniel Hackett thing though is
it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody's just like assuming that that's the binary consideration for going to get Aaron Rodgers. Like it ain't that cut and dry, bro.
Yeah. I don't. So I don't. You know what I mean? I've been there once.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. The yellow ones don't stop.
Yeah, they don't. They don't. They don't.
They really don't. All right. So let's get into the most important part of our show. For those of you guys tuning in for the first time, we appreciate it. For those of you guys who have been here, you already know what this is. Veteran-owned podcast. We dedicate every single episode to a fallen service member. And this episode segment brought to you by Folds of Honor. It's called our Salute to Service. This episode's going to be dedicated to Army Captain Matthew J. August, who's 28 years old of Rhode Island, assigned to Company B, 1st Engineer Battalion, 1st Brigade Combat Team, 1st Infantry Division Mechanical, Fort Riley, Kansas. He was killed January 27th in an IED attack in Khalidiyah, Iraq. Army Captain Matthew J. August, we have the watch. Why does the Army have to have so many caveats?
It's crazy, ain't it?
It's ridiculous. But they didn't say where in Rhode Island he's from. Is it just because it's that small of a state?
Yeah.
It's just like what part of Houston are you from?
You could throw a stone across that state.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I'm fairly confident that like Houston and Dallas or San Antonio are bigger than Rhode Island.
I think you're 100% correct.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I really do. I think it's like 13 miles, I think.
Yeah, every major city is larger than every major city in the country is larger.
They have this like historical kind of landmark sightseeing thing where all like the old manors and mansions are. It's called the Breakers. And it's like you're up on this kind of cliff. And if you stand on the cliff, you literally can see across the whole state. It's wild.
Wow.
That state's so small, dude.
Why is it there? You know?
Yeah. But it has the longest name in the Union by a long stretch, too, if you go by its full name. Because its official name is the State of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. It's absurd. It's like 36 letters or something for the smallest state in the Union.
That's ridiculous. Compensating is all they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like driving a huge truck lifted on 12-inch lift.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, without any further ado, let's get into some Cap facts.
Yes, sir.
Cat facts, Cincy shit talk brought bad karma heading into Arrowhead. Hey, listen, this is facts.
Big
This is real big facts. You cannot talk that shit and then walk into Arrowhead. You cannot say things like, look, I loved the phrase, the word Burrowhead. I
Sure.
loved it. I was on it. I was shouting it from the fucking rooftop. I was with it.
But you didn't have to go to Kansas City and play.
But I didn't have to go to Kansas City, and I'm not a Bengals fan. I'm a Joe Burrow fan. So, they took an L.
Yeah, this is big facts. And you knew as soon as the game ended, you knew that they were going to. Yeah, Nate, we're still live, buddy. Let us know what you want to know.
Doing it live.
Let us know what you think. But I should have picked the Eagles and the Chiefs last weekend, and I would have gotten the Super Bowl I wanted.
Aaron,
right?
Thank you. Holding my man accountable.
I'm never gonna live that down. I legit thought the Cowboys were gonna win, though. I legit did, but
that's the problem. Is that I need to just bet against them, and then whenever you bet on them, and then I'm making shmoney.
Appreciate you supporting, man. Me and Nate go way back.
Hell yeah, Nate.
But yeah, this is huge facts. You don't give the other team bulletin board material, man, and you don't give the one seed in your conference at home bulletin board material. You just don't. And I thought about it all week, and it honestly, like, I regretted my pick at times with what I was hearing them say and shit. I get you've dominated them 3 in a row, all that, but golly, you just cannot give that team, any team, bulletin board material in the fucking conference championship. It's absurd. Can't do it.
Can't do it.
Can't do
it. On to the next one. Trent Williams took notes on The Undertaker's chokeslam before this weekend. That's also facts. My man was watching film coming out of the coffin.
Yeah. So, look, I know that tempers were flaring, right? So I'm not at all absolving the Niners of any blame in this whole thing. And I don't think that one team is more to blame than the other. But I will say this. Wallace fucked around and found out why Trent Williams is called the Silverback, bro.
That was
why they call him the Silverback. You fucked around and you found out. And you ended up on your fucking back. Nate, it gets recorded. It'll be posted to Facebook. You can catch up with us. Appreciate you joining. But yeah, we're 8:30 every Tuesday if you got the time to join us, man. Love to have you live. Yeah, that was textbook chokeslam.
Yeah, watched all the film. Flawless.
Took all the notes.
It was a 10 on the fuck around scale. And on that graph, that means you're going to find out 10. It's just it's a 1 for 1.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, on to the next one. 49ers should name Brock Purdy their starter for 2023. I mean, what is it that Jameis Winston said earlier this year? I'm getting benched because I'm injured. I mean, what's Trey Lance going to be saying next year?
Yeah.
Does Brock Purdy, should he get the start?
It did end up 31-7.
Excellent. So I honestly couldn't say this. I think that this is cap to say this right now. I think you got to give him, you got to let Trey Lance get back under center. You got to work it out through the summer, through the off season. You've got to start running through all of that before you have this conversation. So right now, gun to my head, pick one. It's definitely Cap.
Yeah, I'm Cap on this. I know a lot of people were saying, like, leading into the divisional round, leading into the conference championship weekend, like, oh, Brock Purdy's done enough to win the job, yada, yada, yada. I think people kind of got a little bit of recency bias, right? It was kind of flavor of the week with him. One, they weren't facing really good teams for a majority of his starts. Two, Kyle Shanahan is a fucking genius when it comes to designing offenses and making things easy for his quarterbacks. So I think Purdy had the advantage of that as well. But the other thing is, you don't know what you have with Trey Lance, right? You don't know what you have. You don't know what you don't have. And you traded a lot of equity away to go get Trey Lance. So I think that there's that to be considered as well. So for me, this is cap. I think you go into next year, it's an open competition, and whichever quarterback wins that competition will be named the starter going into the season. And then you can say we've done our due diligence and we realize we made a mistake making that trade to go get Trey Lance. And you can kind of sell that to the fan base. You can sell that to your front office and say, okay, this is our guy. We're going to get going. Yeah, Nate, I've got some interesting points on that. Absolutely. I'm going to bring his up in just a moment, but yeah, he's earned something. Absolutely. I think he's earned the right to compete for the starting job next year. That's my thing. Nate brings up a good point though. This may all be moot in the end, because I will tell you this. UCL, Tommy John, we're talking baseball players come back from this injury all the time. And it's at least a 6-month rehab. And then you're really not to full throwing capacity till at least 9 months. And you're not full strength until 18 to 24 months, honestly. So you're talking about, with football, it's a little different than baseball because you're not putting the same type of wear and tear on an elbow as you do with baseball. But this is not an easy this is one of the most difficult rehabs, like of sports injuries. It is one of the most excruciating rehabs because you're in a brace and they literally will take your brace. You're at a 90-degree angle and they'll lower it 5 degrees after like 3 weeks, and then they'll lower it another 5 degrees after like 3 weeks, and another until you can finally get that arm fully straight, and then you can start rehab, right? And it's excruciating for guys who have this surgery. So it's tough. And Dave mentions 20. He's like 53, isn't he? Right? Wasn't he in high school like during World War II? But no, I mean you're absolutely right. He's not a young guy. That's just you've got to guarantee that for sure. Let's see. So Nate says Jimmy's gone. Yeah, absolutely. So they've got high upside options, cookie deals, real cheap on the salary cap. You're talking a combined salary cap of like 5.2 million, and like 5.1 of that is Trey Lance because Brock Purdy was the last pick in the draft. But yeah, you're looking at a rookie cookie, same thing, bud. But yeah, 18 months is usually when you finally get back to full strength for Tommy John. So
it might work out.
They're talking, they don't want to do a full a full Tommy John repair. They want to do a repair of the tendon as opposed to, or the ligament, as opposed to a reconstruction, which is what Tommy John is. They take they'll either take it out of your other wrist, they might take it out of a cadaver, and it's like a much shorter ligament, and you got to stretch it out. That's why it's such an excruciating fucking rehab. But it's tough, man. It's tough. So I don't know that this is even really going to be a conversation when it comes to training camp, because I don't see how they can get away without doing a reconstruction for him. And I don't know that he's going to be ready to play football next year. Although Aaron has a good copy fit. Fits him right up.
I don't know if Brett Favre lost that sponsorship, but if he didn't, hook the boy up. It's probably not the only thing you're getting
if they can do a repair, I fully believe he'll be back 6 months ready for camp. But if they've got to do the reconstruction, which is what I think they're going to have to do, I'm not a doctor, but I played a lot of baseball with several guys who ended up having that surgery, and a complete tear. It's not as easy as just sewing that bitch up and saying you're good. That's a very high stress joint, and that's a kind of sketch way of doing it, in my opinion.
I'm also not a doctor, but I have watched a lot of Grey's Anatomy, and I would say that we need to book an OR.
There you go. Are you ready to transition to Damn K?
Let's get into it.
Yeah, that's a good final point, right? Like Trey Lance now might just be the guy, and they have to go with him as the guy because Jimmy's gone, and maybe Brock Purdy's not ready, and it kind of saves that front office as saying, okay, now we've got to play Trey Lance and not have to worry about answering the question about Brock Purdy.
And it's a good position to be in too. Let's be
Sure,
honest. You've
sure.
got
A couple
two,
young guys.
viable quarterbacks, good
Yep,
options for sure.
yep.
So let's get to Damn K. Damn K is a segment where we, give some props to an individual, a team, somebody within within the organization, the games we watched. So my Damn K this week, it's got to go to Irish Patty Mahomes. I mean, shutting down all of my doubt, shutting down all of Gary's doubt. Um, we wrote him off. We fucking wrote him off, and an Irish Patty didn't write back though. So went up there, showed Burrowhead that it's really Arrowhead, and taking the Chiefs Kingdom to another Super Bowl, despite all the despite the injury, an intense rehab, that quick turnaround, a gruesome injury. I mean, it was terrible to watch.
Oh,
And
I thought he
then to
broke it.
go up and look, and he was hurting. He was tender on it, especially in the second half. Still managed to get the job done. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. Anyways, so that's my Damn K. Gary?
I've got two. One's really quick, and it's a piggyback off of what you just said. Julie Freimeyer is the lead physical therapist who Mahomes said basically like she developed the rehab plan that got him ready for the game. So hats off, damn K, great work, Julie Freimeyer. My other damn K is it's a combined effort, right? And it's the defensive lines for both Philly and Kansas City because they were the difference in these games. And Chris Jones, especially, who'd been blanked his entire playoff career without a sack, one of the best interior pass rushers in all of football, maybe best overall pass rushers in football because they move him around a lot. Got 2 sacks in this game, first 2 sacks of his playoff career, and they were big. They were big in a game that was tight, a game that they knew the defense had to step up. He put a lot of pressure on Burrow. He was in the backfield all day. Willie Gay had another good game. He's been kind of a revelation for them in Kansas City. And then on the other side, as Dave kind of mentioned at the opening of the show, Philly just pinning the ears back, man, and doing what they've done all year. For all of the talks about the easy schedule, for all the talks of who they've played in the playoffs and kind of how it broke out for them, they still stuck to what they want to do defensively, and that is pin the ears back and get after the quarterback. And they did a lot of that on Sunday. With Purdy in the game early, with Josh Johnson in the game, that's what knocked him out of the game. And then, of course, as the game went on, they were relentless up front, not letting the San Francisco 49ers sniff contention after once they got up by 2 scores, it was kind of game over. So damn K to both defensive lines this weekend.
Hundo P. Defense wins championships, and it at least got him conference championships in this last go round.
Yeah, that run game can be important this weekend for sure. If Philly's able to get the
100.
run game going and Kansas City can't control the clock, that's going to be trouble. Not this
Yeah,
weekend, but next weekend.
no doubt. All right, so let's figure out what Brian's we're going to be congratulating this week. So congrats, Brian is basically the opposite. There's a couple different angles the weekend. I mean, there's plenty of Brian's to congratulate this week. Gary, let's go to you first.
Yeah, I'm going to congratulate Kyle Shanahan in a very small vacuum, right? It's the fact that you didn't block Hassan Reddick on like back-to-back plays. In one of those plays, your quarterback got hurt. And essentially that's where you lost the game because Josh Johnson was in no position. Jimmy G wasn't healthy enough to go this weekend. And you kind of were just left out to dry. A backup tight end blocking Hassan Reddick at one point, and then the other play I'm talking about, like you didn't even chip him. So early in the game, Kyle Shanahan, I don't know what you were thinking in terms of what was going on, but golly, congrats, Brian. You got to block that guy.
Got to block him. So I initially wanted to go with the refs, just being the Bryans that I would congratulate for their
We got a lot of mailbag
performance.
time for that.
Yeah, we've got a lot of mailbag time for that. So with that being said, the Brian that I'd like to congratulate goes by the name of Joseph Osai. Who knows if even without that play, you still had a chance, and you slammed that door shut. It was a shit move to begin with. There was no reason to do it. This wasn't. There was no excuse for it. Period. And look, the guy was beating himself up. You could tell he knew that he fucked up. So I'm not going to sit here and beat this man down while he's already down. Whatever. But God damn it, I wore burnt orange with you, and you fucking embarrassed me. We can't have it. Period. It was a piss poor move. And on top of that, if that were to have impacted Pat's chances of playing in the Super Bowl too, that is, I mean, come on. It's a grimy ass move. So congrats, Brian.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on that a little bit. It's super tough in that situation. And I don't know how we fix it, but defensive players are put in such a bad position when quarterbacks get near the sideline and then they decide to go up the field and get another 2 yards. And then a defender's like, well, if he just keeps running, because Lamar Jackson has done that. Robert Griffin did it against the Vikings before. Like, what do I do if I ignore him and he ends up running for a touchdown? Or in Mahomes' case, he probably wasn't going to run for a touchdown. But if he gets another 10 yards, he gets a field goal chance. But if I push him while he's out of bounds, he gets 15 yards and it's a field goal chance. They're put in such a tough situation. And I think that the NFL probably doesn't want to fix it because offense sells and that's what they want. They want as much offense as possible. And that's why they officiate the game and develop the rule book the way they do. But I feel like at some point we've got to figure out a way that we can make it more safe on the sidelines, because Osai almost blew his leg out. I thought he blew his knee out, but he was fortunate that he didn't. But those plays all the time, they're like nip tuck, and these quarterbacks are kind of reaching the ball out all the time, or they're tiptoeing the sideline, and then they duck out of bounds and they're trying to draw that flag. Like, it's almost an art with these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
We've got to find a way to officiate it better. I don't know if it's early whistles or something else. I just don't know what it is. But defensive players are put in such bad positions. And Joseph Osai had a great game. That dude was all over the field until that last play where he made a bonehead play. And that's all that anybody remembers about the game. It sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, it's unfortunately all that you're going to remember from that.
Yep. Absolutely.
We get caught up here. Hassan Reddick deserved Defensive Player of the Year. I mean,
he had a great year.
Fantastic year. There was a lot of great candidates for Defensive Player of the Year.
There was
Yeah, definitely sucked. And then,
dude,
last,
ran the fuck over.
That's just a lot of that's a lot of human being to be running at you.
Yeah. It sucks because they want all that intimate access on the sideline. They want all this production value. And that's what those people are doing down there. And then the assistant coaches too, right? They get smashed a lot. It's tough because it's such a fast game. And when they get to the sideline, you're doing a lot of things during the game on the sideline too, that you're not always just paying attention specifically to the play. Sometimes these guys get rolled up, guys and gals get rolled up on the backs of their legs and shit. And these are big, fucking fast, physical guys that are running them over, and it sucks. It sucks. And I know the players all the time try not to do it, but in the heat of the moment like that, there's no fucking way that you weren't going to get smashed, and it sucks. And they have to, right? The way it's officiated, the way the rule book is, they have to play scared.
I mean, we made all the jokes with the new roughing the passer kind of regulations of pass. You're going to have to tuck these quarterbacks in and read them a fucking bedtime story, get them a pillow. Like, there's some truth to it.
Game's
and
evolved.
So,
the game has evolved.
Look, he gets the congrats, Brian, for the bonehead play. Now,
sure.
How much of that was Pat, maybe he was prepared.
Pat did exactly what quarterbacks do these days.
Mm-hmm.
He knew I get a couple more yards if I duck out of bounds at the right time. Maybe I can draw a flag. Right?
Advantage quarterback, period.
Absolutely.
And so, Osai's got to know what to do in that situation.
Sure. And
given the circumstances, you're right. I mean, you were one penalty away from keeping them out of field goal range. Just fucking.
They weren't going to be able to kick a field goal.
Yeah.
Right? You were going to get a Hail Mary at best or pitchy woo woo.
Yeah.
Because where they were, Harrison Butker couldn't get the ball to the goalpost. That 45-yard field goal he made, that was about all he had in him, and that was only going to be good from about 48, 49. So that penalty literally put them in field goal range.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And that's what we've seen. A lot of evolution. Basketball is a prime example. The game's got to change where they're playing the rules and not necessarily the game.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Well, I think it's
get in
time
our
to get in
bag?
our bag. Let's do it. First question we got in the bag. Be sure to, you could DM us. You could comment on a photo. You can comment on something. You can hit us up in whatever way you choose and send us your questions. We'll read them out on the air. So Ty Havernack asks, was this past weekend scripted? Just fucking right to the point.
Tear that fucking Band-Aid off, he says. Tear the fucking Band-Aid off.
I think this is the closest I've ever gotten to thinking that it's really scripted. When you think about how the NFL registers as an entertainment business and not a sporting business, it looks real Vince McMahon-ish after this shit that happened.
Hell yeah, buddy. Every Tuesday, man. Every Tuesday. I try to share it as much on my wall, so I'll make sure that I'm sharing it, get it out there early. Yeah, buddy. We respect your inputs as well.
Yeah, I'll just go fuck myself.
Nah, we go way back.
No, I'm kidding. So, was this past weekend scripted? I mean, yes.
I'm going to disagree. And I'm going to disagree because of semantics. All right?
Of course.
And this is the word scripted. All right. I'm going to say I've had this conversation with a lot of people, right, who have asked this question this way, and they say, well, the NFL wants this, they want that, they want this, they want that. Sure. The NFL absolutely has an agenda, and that's what I will say this past weekend was. It served an agenda.
Nate, all good.
Right? It served an agenda, and we saw officiating. We saw the way replay was officiated. We saw the way the storylines were presented, that this fit an agenda. And I'm going to tell you, there were way more things that the NFL could sell the Super Bowl on, with Travis versus Jason, with Jason likely retiring after the Super Bowl, with Andy Reid playing against his old team, with first Super Bowl with 2 black starting quarterbacks, right? There's just storylines that can be sold for 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl that wouldn't have been there if either or both of Cincinnati and San Francisco got in. And yeah, Aaron, like, it's not that level of scripted, but that's what it is, right? You're selling a brand, you're selling a game, you're selling a product, and it's just done in a different way. And I'm going to reference you back to something, not necessarily that I think there's a cheating scandal going on, but if you didn't, and yeah, absolutely, Dave, you're right, he drafted Jason Kelce. But it's not that the game is scripted, but Tim Donaghy, if you watched his Netflix documentary, it's called Undefeated or something like that, but it's on Netflix. He said that no NBA games weren't scripted, but there was an agenda that the NBA served up, and games were officiated with the refs' feelings in mind. If they didn't like Allen Iverson, he wasn't getting calls. They didn't like this, that these things were going to go this way. If they wanted to focus on something that Allen Iverson,
we see it with LeBron
all the time, and
we see it with Steph Curry. We see it with all of them.
You also can't script these games, right? I'm going to put that out there right now. You cannot script these games. There's the bounce of the ball. There's different things that happen. You can't script it, but
I feel like you're getting too literal on it, and you're trying to add these like conditions that make it not literally scripted.
Isn't that what I always do, though?
Yeah, but like the real question is this shit influenced? Because if it's
influenced 100%.
Scripted may be too strong of a word. Fair.
That's what I would say.
Because you
100%. The NFL influenced the outcomes of this past weekend. 100%.
Yes, for entertainment and sales purposes.
100%.
So, yeah, and that
That's
sucks.
as close as I'll ever get to flat Earth too, Nate. Because the Earth is round.
So, yeah, I mean, and so whenever I say that, yes, it's scripted, we're saying the same thing. Like, sure. Yeah, it's not play by play drawn out, but the outcomes are attempted to be predetermined.
Sure.
So, anyways,
I 100% believe that, Nate, without a doubt. I don't know what somebody would have to do to convince me otherwise either. I see it in the NBA. I see it in Major League Baseball. I see it in the NHL. I see it in the NFL all the fucking time. There's an agenda, and it's what they do, man. It's what they do.
Yep. They like picking on you. Carl Nilo asks, should NFL officials face repercussions for poor performance?
Hold on. We got not fixed. I don't think they're fixed. The NFL has an agenda, and if there's a way for them to kind of skew things, that's what they do.
I also don't think it happens to all of them. I think in situations like this, they want, they're not even just looking for Vegas odds. They're looking for who is going to bring in the most.
Who can sell the Super Bowl better.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Fixed, also a strong word. So, should NFL officials face repercussions for poor performance? 100%. You can't protect the officials here because then you're not actually protecting the players. And that's what this entire league should be about. It's what it claims to be about. And the NFLPA should be saying the same thing. They should be demanding this. It's got to happen, period.
They claim, they claim that the refs are graded on a scale and only the best get in. But as I mentioned earlier tonight, the same crew that allowed a Giants defender to hug a wide receiver in the end zone after basically grabbing his arm to pull him into said hug on a decisive play in the end zone as time expired in a game was officiating the NFC Championship game, period. No, Nate, I don't think that the NFL chose for the Eagles to be 15-3. I think we're talking kind of on the opposite side of coins here. I don't think the NFL it says like we want the Eagles to go 15-3 and be home field and yada yada yada. But you best damn believe that when the championship games were set, the NFL said, "Fuck, man, we can sell Andy Reid, we can sell the Kelsey brothers, we can sell 2 black starting quarterbacks." You best believe that they do. And do I think they're fixed year in, year out? Yes. And fixed is, again, a strong word. I just don't think that fixed is the right word for it, honestly. I think that they have an agenda, and if they can serve that agenda, sure. If Mahomes came out and threw 5 picks in this game, there's no way the refs can fix that.
Right.
But because this game played out the way it did, they made a few calls here and there, a couple different decisions that they don't normally make throughout the year.
Some missed PIs, some missed holds, some called holds that shouldn't have been called. Like there's
excuse it. That's all. Aaron, absolutely. Reviewed, graded, and make it public, right? But the biggest thing they need to do is make these officials full-time. All right. I'm really over this idea that the officials for the most revenue-rich organization in pro sports, or in North American sports, the most revenue-rich organization has part-time fucking officials. Like, let's think about that for a minute. These people who are regulating the game that these professional athletes are playing are doing this as a side hustle.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Would any other organization that was operating with $9 to $10 billion in revenue accept that? No way. No way. So they need to be full-time. We need better grading, better accountability, 100%. And
Yeah.
Nilo's an Eagles fan, by the way. Just throwing that out there. So we're getting perspective from all over the place.
Oh, Nilo.
Absolutely, Aaron.
I'd
100%.
love
Holding is the biggest thing. It happens on every play. Happens on every
right,
play, and they just choose crucial
and they're
times off.
impactful. Every time you throw that fucking
You never
flag,
see
it's
holding on
impactful to the
fucking
game.
2nd and 2.
Yeah,
You see
no.
holding on 1st and 10, or you see holding on 3rd and 1.
Yep,
Like
every time.
It just seems like that's what it always happens. 100%.
It's
Great.
yeah, it's 100% got to happen, and I feel
Gotta.
like I don't know how it works, but you've got to have the NFLPA have a
More
big
say.
voice. I'm
Yes.
good with the like. I would rather the NFLPA have a hand in some of this grading or feedback rather than public. Just
I want
because.
him on the podium after the game.
Oh
I'm
yes,
so
dude.
tired
Fuck
of
yes.
hearing about some half-assed fucking public statement 2 days after a game. I want him on the podium after the game. I want JP Finley of DC, NBCSN DC, asking the fucking officials after the game, why didn't you call PI on Curtis Samuel? The dude form tackled him while the ball was in the air. I want that. I'm so tired of the NFL just protecting these fucking assholes. Yeah, they need to streamline it, get it a little more involved. I don't want the game to stop.
I want the margin of error to drop even with using replay, because they still managed to fuck that up with replays.
That up too. But I'm telling you, I don't understand how I'm sitting on my couch and I have a 48 or whatever inch fucking TV. This $10 billion organization can't figure out how to get replay done in the blink of an eye. I see it. Let's move on. It shouldn't be that goddamn difficult to figure it the fuck out. It's not. It's just not. They can call me. I'll sit on my couch and watch the game. They can call me and I'll tell them what they're looking at.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake.
I'm just saying, look, Joe Burrow threw a pick and probably walked right back to his tablet and watched film on the play.
In the blink of an eye.
Yeah. 100%. So give him a fucking Surface tablet. Bud.
Yeah, right. Like, if that's what it takes.
Let's have the same type of filming on the refs where it's like, here's the play that you fucking blew.
Yep.
Here's the call that you blew.
I said it earlier. The NBA's got that last 2-minute report. The NFL needs to probably do something like that.
Yeah.
Be more public about it. Don't just sit here and pretend. I know that the refs are unionized and they probably got an agreement about it, but it's time to move on from that.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Whatever it takes. Yeah, just have you in that position again, rewatching it from your vantage point. 100%.
Yeah, and they've tried to kind of err on the side of let the play out, but sometimes you see it play out and you're like, golly, that was such a waste of time. Now we've got to replay it. Now we've got to do this. So it's hard to find that balance. It really is. And it can be a game-changing scenario, right? If you're scoring a defensive touchdown, that's a momentum shifter.
Yeah.
But Dave mentions the VR goggles. During the World Cup, they were able to officiate offside, which is literally the forward-most body part of an offensive player versus the back shoulder or hip area of a defender. They were able to officiate that in seconds. Literally seconds, based on technology that they've implemented. Why can't the NFL put that shit in the football? Why can't the NFL put that shit on like the goal line next? So like they should be able to do a lot better. They should be able to do so much fucking better. We're getting shown up by fucking soccer. Really, America? Really?
It's true.
Ugh. Anyway,
it's true. How unfortunate. Josh Stovall asks, considering the Kelsey brothers have one of the more successful new podcasts of the year, any coincidence that they're now playing each other in the Super Bowl? Listen, put your tinfoil hats on with me for a second. Look, the numbers for...
We got to figure it out.
The numbers for these two guys are fucking incredible.
They do big numbers.
They are on my news feed. I'm just gonna like quickly log into YouTube, and I guarantee you they'll be one of the first things that pops up. And I watch them, I don't know, maybe once every couple weeks. So it's not something I watch consistently on YouTube, but they'll be there. Advertising's on point. Yeah, Yeah, literally third video on top is new heights. So does it work? Yeah. I mean, does it check out? Yeah. Is it an investment that the NFL is willing to make on the Super Bowl? Probably not. However, it's real fucking convenient, isn't it?
It is really convenient. But yeah, I'm with you.
Bit
They
of a
move the
cowanky
needle in the
dank.
podcast world, but I don't think they move the needle on the scale that the NFL is going to pitch. I don't think we're going to see a lot of new heights commercials during Super Bowl week.
Listen, they're already at 58,000 views on their last episode.
Yeah, they do big numbers though for podcasts.
For sure. They've got almost 500,000 subscribers. They've got a whole bunch of videos that have, a couple million views.
Yeah.
They've definitely done some big numbers, but I mean, look at who they've had on. Like their most watched video is Pat Mahomes, 2.1 million, Jalen Hurts, 1.1 million. So, a lot of it's their fan following. Look, either way,
it helps to have those two guys on your teams.
2.1 million views on a video. And listen, that is, about 2,999,980.
More than
more than what we're going to pull on this episode. But, as just because they have money doesn't mean they're more interesting than us is all I was trying to say.
100%. All right, off the officials.
Yeah.
We shat on them a lot. We brought a lot of heat against the officials. Yeah, there you go. Cowboys Bills Diggs podcast. You got to talk to them. Got to get them going.
Yeah. Let's see if Diggs is fucking. Let's see if Stefan's still out of his. There's a conspiracy market everywhere. Okay, it doesn't matter the subject.
We try our best. Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a conspiracy out there. The truth is out there, as they say.
Ty Havernack asks, better hire Ryans or Peyton? Oh, I think it depends on the team, right? Like I feel like Sean Payton in Denver is a good fit for somebody like it's Russ's only chance. I think it being successful is he needs a Peyton. As far as Ryans is concerned, if you could put him with an I'd love to see him and the Bengals. I'd like to see him with that type of offense, that type of team. As far as who would I put better, I'd have to go Sean Payton.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, we got to get some people that don't wear the tinfoil hats, right, Nate? But I actually think the DeMeco Ryans hire is the better hire in this moment right now, because
just in this vibe in football.
Well, a couple of reasons. I don't believe that the Broncos have enough to win right away, and I think that's where Sean Payton. People think that Sean Payton's going to be able to put them over the top immediately. I don't see it that way. I don't like their wide receiver core. I don't like that Russ goes to the line and checks and refuses to run the ball. The best thing I said about Sean Payton is maybe what'll fix that is the fact that he knows how to deal with these personalities. And if you think back to the Saints teams, even when Drew Brees was throwing for 4,000, 5,000 yards and throwing for 30, 40 touchdowns, they were still a top 5, top 10 running offense too.
Yeah.
They had really good balance. They were just super explosive.
So I just realized that I misunderstood the question completely. So I understood the question as who would you rather hire, basically. But no, I mean, who had the better hire between the Chargers and the Broncos? I mean, I would definitely say the Chargers, but it's because of who they have, who they have loaded in the chamber.
Texans got
Ryans, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah. But
my bad.
I like the DeMeco Ryans hire because I do like what the Texans have. A lot of draft equity. The Texans have a young core. They've got a pretty good defense that I think he's going to be able to push over the top because of what he's able to do with that San Francisco defense. So I do love that hire. And I also think that he's got experience under Kyle Shanahan helping understand what it takes to build a winner. And that's what they really need in Houston if they're going to turn this thing around. So I love the hire of DeMeco Ryans. I'm going to reiterate, I hate it because I wanted him in Washington.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. I can't say I even blame you there. Gary Free Sr. asks, how do the Bills ensure they don't suffer the same fate if Von Miller can't play the entire season next year? They were a different team after his injury. And that's no doubt. But when you make it as far as the Bills did in the postseason, you're going to have to rely on, whatever pick you do get in the first round to kind of staff some backup. I don't know what the offseason looking like from a defensive perspective, but I mean, Von Miller's
he played there too.
yeah. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on Von? I mean, do you feel like confidently that we're going to see Von Miller all year next year in Buffalo?
I hope so, right? Like I
mean, it's the back nine, right?
He is sort of on the back nine. I still think he's the finisher. We saw that with him this year.
Yeah. When he's on the field, no doubt.
Yeah. So I just depth, but Aaron just made the right point. They got to be willing to run the ball. They just seem at times like they're just not willing to run the ball. And that's got to change for them offensively. You've got to sustain drives. You got to protect your defense, keep them off the field. And you just hope that Von Miller stays healthy because he is, as I said, a finisher, and he changes things for them. He eats up double teams, and then we saw, while he was healthy, we saw guys like Ed Oliver eat. Saw guys like Phillips eat. They were really good when he was healthy, and then they really kind of fell off. They weren't getting the same kind of pressure, that sort of stuff. I'm going to assume that's sarcasm, Nate, unless you really believe that, and then I just vehemently disagree. He's had 2 winning seasons in his career. And he's just, I don't know. I don't like him, honestly. I don't think he's a very good coach. I don't want to get too sidetracked with that. I kind of made that passing comment about D'Amico Ryans because I really like D'Amico Ryans and I really don't like Ron Rivera. But this is about depth. It's about the running game, though. That's my big thing with the Bills. To protect that defense, they've got to be willing to run the ball.
Yeah, that would be fucking nice. I'm sure Josh Allen doesn't realize it immediately, but I'm sure he'd appreciate it.
Exactly. And that's a big problem. That's a big problem for Buffalo. We see it happen in the playoffs where they just get in these shootouts because they can't protect their defense. Yep, inconsistent. Ooh.
I mean, future on Cowboys running backs is that Pollard's going to get a franchise tag and Zeke's going to probably go off to the wayside in preparation to receive Bijan Robinson. I mean, that's what I'm banking on. He looks good draft pick wise. I mean, he'd be a smart pickup, but
I'm going to trade up for him because I don't think he survives to Dallas.
You don't?
I don't. I think Bijan, he's shown it on his college film, and I also think he's going to go to the combine and be a fucking freak show.
You think he's top? You think he's a top 10 draft pick?
I would even say he's borderline top 5, depending on if a team falls in love with him. Yeah. But I think he's gone long before the Cowboys, unless they trade up for him.
And then do you want to trade up for him?
For a running back? Probably not. Not in today's NFL.
No. Can't do it.
Not in today's
You trade up for a quarterback.
You trade up for quarterback. And you trade up for a cornerstone of some sort at another position. Running back is just so expendable. It really is. Yeah, Ron Rivera won Coach of the Year because he had cancer. Like, let's not get it twisted on why he won Coach of the Year with Washington. He didn't win Coach of the Year because they were a great team. I don't want to poo-poo it was a great story, but let's his track record is not good. Defensively, sure, he's fine, but as far as being a head coach and leading a team, he's had 2 winning records in his career. Like, he's been coaching for 15 fucking years. Or 3. 2 with Carolina and 1 with Washington. But he's just not a good head coach, in my opinion. I know a lot, and I'm gonna say this, and I think it's part of like what people get lost in the sauce with guys like Jeff Fisher and Ron Rivera. Like, you can be both a really good guy, a really respected guy in the league, and not a good coach. Like, those 2 things aren't exclusive. I didn't say anything about the Panthers. He won it. He had a great team. They had a great defense. Luke Kuechly, Cam Newton. They went to a Super Bowl. He won Coach of the Year. But that year he won it with Washington, he wasn't the best coach in the league that year. It was a great story, but he was not the Coach of the Year.
So, I mean, to ask about I don't know if it's Malik or Malik. Yeah.
Malik, yeah.
I think Malik at the same I don't know. I mean, we haven't seen enough of him this year, so it's hard to tell. But can we move forward with just Tony Pollard? Maybe. I mean, Malik, I just need to.
It's a good question, Nate. Sorry.
I'm looking into this one. He's 200 pounds, 5'11". I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him to really say confidently that we can depend on him at an RB2 position. Not to say that we can't, but I mean, he went undrafted. We're going to need a big boy. Like if you're going to have Pollard as your RB1, you've got to have a, 230, 240 big boy kind of sitting behind him.
You're going to need 220, 225, 230. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those guys that can really
240 is a little hefty, my bad. But yeah, no. 225, 230 is probably.
I mean, 240. I mean, if it's the right guy for sure. Like Jerome Bettis played like 340.
I was going to say Derrick Henry's a fucking monster. He's what?
Yeah, Derrick Henry's 6'4", 260.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying RB2 is in like your second string.
Yeah.
My bad, Nate. Anyways,
we will talk fantasy once we get back toward the regular season, though, for sure. All right. Last in the mailbag.
Last in the bag, Brett Freeze asked, do the Rams re-sign Baker? If not, is he still in the NFL next year? Well, I guess I immediately want to think about who's going to be available in the offseason. Where is Matt Stafford?
They've still got him under contract, and he has indicated that he'll be back next year.
I think he's going to be back, right?
I think McVay's coming back, and they want to kind of run it back and take one more shot at it.
I think that that Baker could be capable of being good with that team, and so I want to believe that he would get re-signed. Assuming that Stafford gets the start, I would say that that's for sure, that he would get the re-sign.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do think that he stays with the Rams, honestly. He said, of course he is. Yeah, okay. He's still in the NFL, I think, next year for sure. I do think that he resigns with LA. I think that for him, it's a comfortable situation. He and McVay really get along. It's kind of how he ended up getting claimed by them off waivers. That relationship that he and McVay have from that plane ride that they talked about where they were talking ball like crazy. And I think that if you have Matthew Stafford next year and you're really serious about wanting to make a run, you've got to have an insurance policy. And I think Baker could be that insurance policy for them just because of the way that McVay can kind of manage quarterbacks and stuff like that. So, dude, yeah. The Lions look like they're on the fucking rise. Big time.
Listen, Cooper Kupp is still a human being that will be back next season.
Yeah.
So, we won't be seeing this shit. Like Lions are on a hot streak, no doubt. But Stafford's going to be in good hands next year. It's kind of one thing after another. I think that for Stafford's probably last year in the NFL, he's going to do okay as long as Cooper stays healthy. What we've seen is a Rams offense that cannot exist without either of those two players, period.
Yeah, Baker, I think, would be fine. So here's the thing, Nate. That's an interesting statement, right?
That's
exactly.
Spicy.
Okay, I'm glad you said that second piece because I was gonna pose it back to you exactly that way, right? If you're the Rams,
that's the kicker.
If you're the Rams and you got a Super Bowl, are you still Les Snead saying fuck them picks, right? Like you got a Super Bowl, you might be in a full rebuild, you might not be able to make this thing last. You're looking at maybe a last ride here with McVay and kind of this core. Do you think you won the trade getting a Super Bowl? I think a lot of fan bases would say yes. I think the fan base in LA couldn't give a fuck less. But I think that for McVay, for Les Snead, getting that Super Bowl was a huge, huge deal for sure. So I'm glad you put that second one out there because that was exactly what I was about to pose back to you. You read my mind, bud.
Well, and ultimately, it's the difference maker because without the Super Bowls, it would definitely not.
They lost bad if they didn't get the Super Bowl. They lost bad.
Real bad. I mean, I think Kingsbury's coming back with a lady boy on his arm. That's where that's what I think old Kingsbury's coming back
Bangkok
with.
has him now.
Yeah, dude. Guaranteed.
I do. I honestly, I think it's a true win-win for both teams in that situation because the Lions got the draft capital they needed. They've got a quarterback that seems to mesh well with what Dan Campbell wants to do on that offense. They got some weapons for sure. I do think that ended up being. We don't see it very often.
The Rams just got the immediate return.
Yep.
They got
that's
the
what they
immediate
wanted,
return.
right? That's what they wanted. They made that move because Stafford was the guy they thought could win them a Super Bowl, and he did.
Now, let's see what we can do coming back next season.
Sure.
All right. Did we get it done? Is that
That's
all
it,
of the
bud.
mailbag questions? Damn.
It was loaded.
It was
we had
loaded.
A big mailbag this week. That's what you get when you get controversy from the NFL. We appreciate
it. Big old bag.
Big old bag.
Goff might have a 5 to 8 year.
He could with the weapons they have. Seriously, like he could have a meteoric kind of 3, 5, 8 years.
He's got it. Yeah, he's got a young talent there in the receiver core. I mean, dude, he could be.
And I'll tell you, the limited exposure we had of Jameson Williams last year, he looked every bit as explosive as he was at Alabama. So I expect to see him next year. Speaking of fantasy, but also speaking of production from this offense, like I expect him to be a home run hitter for that team next year.
Hondo P. All right. Well, any closing thoughts, Gary?
I can't wait to, next week, start talking about Super Bowl because I think it is a very interesting Super Bowl. For all of my tinfoil hat, and I think the NFL had an agenda, yada, 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 I do think that there's a lot of intrigue about the Super Bowl for a lot of the reasons that I believe the NFL thought there would be a lot of intrigue about this Super Bowl and that they're going to be able to sell. I just think that the Andy Reid story's big. The Kelsey story's big, especially with Jason, I think, is probably going to retire after this year. Who knows if he's going to want to try to run it back if they do win or whatever. But and then, of course, obviously the history with black quarterbacks in the NFL. We've had some teams that have had starting quarterbacks, but we've never had two facing each other. So we're starting to kind of check off some interesting storylines about the Super Bowl. I'm excited about it, but I'm also excited about the fact that this is a lot of strength on strength, right? The strength of the Philly offense is the strength of the Chiefs defense. Philly runs the ball as good as anybody in the league, and the Chiefs are a top, I think, 3 or 4 defense in terms of stopping the run. The strength of the Kansas City offense is spreading things out, a lot of pass, a lot of Mahomes kind of making things work. The strength of the Philly defense is getting after the quarterback and all of those moves they made in the secondary. So it's going to be a very interesting game to preview. Aaron, no Pro Bowl picks. We don't talk Pro Bowl around it. We don't talk about Bruno. All right.
Dad jokes.
That's what I'm most excited about. After all the controversy and the fun show that we had this week, I'm really excited about next week starting to talk about the Super Bowl.
Yeah, there's going to be, at this point, neither one of our picks are in the Super Bowl.
Right.
So, I rode with the Bills up until the AFC or up until the playoffs and then switched to the Bengals. And now here I am stuck with the fucking Chiefs. Listen, Aaron, with the quickness, dude, I'm talking straight up radio silence, my guy. We're going to River City in this bitch. It is. Yeah, dude.
Next Tuesday, bud, 8:30 p.m. I'll make sure I share it on my timeline early. That way you should see it probably with me sharing it. But next Tuesday, 8:30, man, that's when we'll kick off. 8:30 Eastern, in case. I think you're still in the Eastern time zone, but I don't know if you've moved in the last couple of years.
Yep, we stream live to Facebook, to YouTube, to Twitch. You can check us out on any of those. We're also on Instagram at Backyard Sports Media. And yeah, man, it's I think that Pat better lock that shit down immediately. We managed to get the brother under control last this season.
That way, right?
Yeah, it's been nice. Haven't.
Yeah.
Anyways, with that being said, if you haven't already clicked the like or follow button here on Facebook, on our Facebook page, be sure to do that. We appreciate you guys tuning in with us, and we'll be sure to catch up with you guys next week, Tuesday night, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, when we go over our Super Bowl picks. Who we believe is going to take down the W, bring home the Lombardi, who will be the reigning Super Bowl champions. Is it going to be another ring for Patty? Is it going to be a Jalen Hurts first ring? Either way, it's getting put on a fucking Texan quarterback, baby. Let's get it.
It always comes back to Texas.
That's right. Two big things here. All right. 2 Texan quarterbacks. Fantastic. Love it. Got to have more of it. And actually, first Super Bowl, 2 black quarterbacks.
Yes,
And that's,
sir.
fucking history, folks. So, anyways, with that being said, we appreciate all of you guys for tuning in to the Blitz. Be sure to tune in with us next week when we'll pick our Super Bowl favorites. As always, Nate, Aaron, Senior, David. Let's see who else. There's more people. I missed them.
We got a lot this week, man. If we
Yeah.
missed you, it's not that we don't appreciate you. We really do appreciate all the interaction. It makes the show go so much faster.
Dieter.
And it makes it so much more engaging. Mike, Dieter.
Mike Dieter. Yep. Nate, everybody. Okay, I think I got
Absolutely.
everybody. Anyways,
Absolutely.
we appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to see you guys next week. Leave comments. I want to see all the smoke next week. If we don't pick your Super Bowl pick, be sure to let us know.
Let us know
in the comments, because we want to hear it.
Yes,
Backyard
sir.
Blitz brought to you by Backyard Sports. We'll see you next week.